I think he had like an IShowSpeed thing. So this was the guy that I
It's
watched.
300.
This was the guy that I watched for, I think it was Karl Marx, like a Marxist interpretation of Mr. Beast or something. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and watch him on this as well, because I'm curious what his thoughts on our iShow speed. Um, but I also need to use the bathroom, so I'm just gonna let it play. I have my headphones in so I can listen to it. But yeah, I'll be right back.
It's 350 BCE in the sweltering heat of ancient Athens. A man named Diogenes, known as the Dog, lives in a discarded, cracked clay storage jar in the middle of the marketplace. He owns nothing but a worn cloak and a staff. He is famous for walking through the crowded city with a lit lantern in broad daylight, holding it up to people's faces and claiming he is simply looking for an honest man. He is the original iconoclast, a man who uses extreme public disruption, shock, and total cringe to expose the deep-seated hypocrisy of society. He had no idea that over 2,000 years later, he would describe the career of Darren Watkins Jr., IShowSpeed, with frightening accuracy. To the internet, Speed is a chaotic force of nature, a high-energy streamer who breaks every rule of social decorum. But through a cynic lens, IShowSpeed is not Diogenes' successor. He is the realization of the philosopher's greatest fear. Diogenes used shamelessness to find freedom. Speed has figured out how to turn shamelessness into a billion-dollar cage. This is how the world's most energetic creator perfected a digital version of the exact dog-like existence Diogenes warned would lead to the death of the human soul. Performative shamelessness.
Okay, so this is going to be interesting, I guess, to me. So I like iShowSpeed generally. I think that he's just uh, a goofy guy. He's a little too high energy, like Zoomer brain for me personally, so I don't really watch him that much. But he does the like he isn't so bought in. Like I don't know how to even phrase this. He's not like so bought into the America centered like worldview or whatever. And I don't know if it's like, I don't think it's like he has a political perspective on the world or whatever. I just think that he sees like cool things and he wants to go do them. And sometimes like that just happens to not like 100% align with the vision that like the American State Department is trying to portray to the world, you know? So like that's kind of like, but I think he does a good job of like de-radicalizing people from their crazy like, like hysterical perspectives on like places like China and stuff. Like I think he went there. So that sort of thing. So, but I also don't know, this might have not been the video for me because I don't know who Diogenes is. I'm going to look that up real quick, just so like also other people can, who are as oblivious as I am. Okay, let me just pull this up. We can read real quick so that we can have a better understanding for this. Diogenes the Cynic, also known as Diogenes of Sinope, was an ancient Greek philosopher during the period of classical Greece and one of the founders of Cynicism. Okay, it is a school of thought of ancient Greek philosophy originating in the according to Cynicism, people are reasoning animals, and the purpose of life and the way to gain happiness and to achieve virtue in agreement with nature, following one's natural sense of reason by living simply and shamelessly free from social constraints. Okay. The Cynics rejected all conventional desires for wealth, power, glory, social recognition, conformity, and worldly possessions, and even flouted such conventions openly and derisively in public. Okay, cool. So he created cynicism, I guess, which is just kind of a rejection of, yeah, like a rejection of the, material. It seems like a heavy rejection of like the typical material goals of life that people put out there. Radical critiques of social conventions. A legendary figure whose life and teachings have been okay. So it seems like those are the couple things I guess we'll take into this, is that he created cynicism, which is all about like reasoning is the way to pure happiness and like rejecting social conditioning, and having radical critiques of social conventions. So that's kind of what I guess Diogenes was all about. So we'll see how IShowSpeed does all that. Why is my... Oh, I think that's just my... Okay, gotcha. Cool. We're good.
Diogenes of Sinope lived by a concept called anaideia, which translates to shamelessness. He believed that human beings were enslaved by artificial social rules, manners, politeness, and the desperate need for approval. To break these chains, he performed the most private acts in the most public places. He ate with his hands in the middle of a formal square and barked at aristocrats. He believed that if you could kill your sense of shame, you could finally be free from the opinions of others. Now,
okay, so just like, blatantly flouting societal norms to and I guess in their view to ascend. I'm curious how that kind of compares with like, because that's interesting to me, because he, like, IShowSpeed is a streamer, and a part of streamer culture is to flout like social norms and stuff in order to gain clout, right? I would argue that Diogenes was not necessarily doing it to gain clout. I would assume, I mean, although that maybe was a byproduct of it, but it seems like he was more just trying to achieve some state of like ascendance or whatever in terms of like his thought process, like how he thinks. Whereas like most modern day like streamers are just going out and, bothering minimum wage employees for clout. So, like, I don't know, maybe I'm curious what his perspective's going to be, but if you're doing it for clout, I don't necessarily think that's a good reason.
Look at a typical IShowSpeed stream. He barks at strangers on Omegle. He screams at the top of his lungs in quiet restaurants.
No. Oh my...
Hey, can you please be respectful? There's other people eating here. Just please be respectful.
He performs erratic, hyperactive stunts that make the average person recoil in embarrassment. On the surface, this is anaideia in its purest form.
Yeah, I mean,
Speed
I could see
appears
that.
to be a man who has completely murdered his own sense of shame. But there is a fundamental difference that Diogenes would have found horrifying. For Diogenes, shamelessness was a tool for internal liberation. He didn't care if the crowd laughed.
That's kind of what I was saying
rocks.
before.
He did it to prove he didn't need them. For Speed, shamelessness is a marketable commodity in the digital economy. Cringe.
That's exactly what I was saying. And I think that, like, yeah, this is a good analysis to make. I wonder what made him make this comparison, if it was just IShowSpeed barking at people or what. But
is a high yield asset. Every time Speed does something shameless, he is checking the live viewer count. The shame isn't being destroyed, it's being sold. Diogenes warned that if you perform your life for an audience, you aren't a philosopher, you're a performer. Speed's wildness is a social relationship masked by a screen. He isn't barking to show that social rules are fake, he's barking because the algorithm rewards the loudest noise. It is the ultimate irony. The man who looks the most free is...
See, the better way that Diogenes could have phrased that is, you're if you're being shameless for others, then you're a clout shark. And clout sharks are not philosophers. That's what that's how I would say it. Clout sharks are not philosophers. So IShowSpeed, I'm sorry, you might not be a philosopher.
Is actually the most dependent on the reaction of the mob, the attention prison. One of the core pillars of Cynic philosophy was ascesis, or rigorous training. Diogenes famously rolled his body in hot sand in the summer and embraced snow-covered statues in the winter. He wasn't doing this to flex or go viral. He was training his body and soul to need nothing. He once saw a child drinking water with his hands and immediately threw away his only wooden cup, crying out, "A child has beaten me in plainness of living." The goal of ascesis was total self-sufficiency, to be happy even if you had nothing. Now analyze the rigorous training of IShowSpeed. Darren Watkins puts himself through incredible physical and mental strain. He streams for 24 hours straight. He does backflips until he collapses. He screams until his vocal cords are literally bleeding. He endures sub-goals where he is forced to do whatever the chat demands for hours on end. This looks like discipline, but it is the exact opposite of what Diogenes practiced. Diogenes' training led to autarkia, self-sufficiency. Speed's training leads to total dependency. Speed has trained his mind to require a constant stream.
Hasn't IShowSpeed, didn't he, is he still doing this stuff? Like, I thought he was taking a little break or something. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
External validation. He is trapped in a sub-goal loop where his physical suffering is the fuel for the engagement engine. Diogenes warned that the more you train to please the crowd, the more the crowd becomes your master. If Speed stopped being chaotic for even 1 hour, his value would drop. He is an athlete of attention, but the prison he has built is made of likes and donations. He has the stamina of a warrior, but he uses it to stay chained to a desk, proving Diogenes' point that without a virtuous purpose, even the strongest man is just a servant to his own fame. The truth trap. Diogenes was the master of parrhesia, or fearless speech. This brings us to the most famous story in the history of philosophy, his encounter with Alexander the Great, when the world's most powerful conqueror stood over the philosopher and asked if there was anything he could do for him. Diogenes didn't ask for money, power, or fame. He simply looked up and said, "Yes, stand a little out of my sunshine." He spoke the truth regardless of the consequences. He used his voice to strip away the masks of the powerful and show them their own insignificance. He wanted nothing from Alexander because Alexander had nothing that Diogenes valued. IShowSpeed also practices a form of fearless speech. He says the most unhinged, unfiltered things imaginable. He calls out celebrities and ignores the rules of decorum. When this gives his audience a sense of authenticity, they feel like they are watching someone real in a world of fake scripted influencers. But this is where the truth trap closes. When Speed interacts with the Alexanders of our world, the celebrities, the athletes, the billionaires, he isn't asking them to move out of his light. He is desperately chasing their light. His frankness is a performance designed to generate a 15-second TikTok clip. Diogenes sought to find an honest man by stripping away the performance. Speed has created a world where the performance is the only thing that feels honest. He can insult a football star or a world leader, but he can never tell the one truth that would end his career, that he is as much a prisoner of the live button as his viewers are. The crowd's dog.
Yeah.
The word cynic comes...
well, hey guys, I don't think you have to worry about me, okay? I got like 33 subscribers, so I don't think I'm going to get audience captured like that. I also think that in general, I have a pretty... well, number one, I'm not like a clout chaser in general. I find that shit like annoying and like kind of pathetic, and I don't know if I would like respect myself that much if I became a clout chaser. So but also I think that like when it comes to like my politics stuff, I have a very like set in stone worldview that isn't very malleable or whatever. So I don't really perceive audience capture as like that big of a risk for me or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. IShowSpeed is just an interesting person. Like I said, he's a little too Zoomer brain for me, so I don't watch him that much. But I did like that he like went to China or whatever.
Comes from the Greek word for dog-like. Diogenes embraced this title. He said he was a dog because he fawns on those who give him anything, barks at those who refuse, and sets his teeth in rascals. He lived like a dog to prove that nature is better than the complex lying world of civilization. But he was a stray dog, beholden to no one. He didn't have a leash, and he didn't have a master. In the digital agora, IShowSpeed has also embraced the persona.
See, here's the thing though, for Diogenes over there, living on his own and all that sort of stuff, he did get some clout from this, right? Like he did. I mean, like it's not exactly the same, but he did. Like if Alexander the Great or whatever did come and visit him, if he is a well-known and well-regarded philosopher, like you can't disconnect that from like what he did here, because this is like sort of a performance to some extent in order to like gain, like, whether he was intentionally trying to or not, which that's internal to himself and nobody can know for sure, it did get him clout, right? So I don't know, Diogenes may not be so far different from IShowSpeed as like there as it's like making it out to be right here.
Have a master. In the digital agora, IShowSpeed has also embraced the persona of the dog. He literally barks at his audience. He acts on animal instinct. He is the speedy persona, unfiltered, raw, and wild. But look closer at the leash. Diogenes barked at people to make them think. Speed barks because the dono goal was met. In this microeconomy, the crowd is the master. The chat is the hand that feeds. In Speed has flipped the cynic's greatest weapon.
See, this how he's acting right here is exactly why I don't actually watch IShowSpeed, because like all of those facial expressions he's making and all that stuff is so perfectly designed to yeah, go viral or whatever. But yeah, it's also just so like absurd and like Zoomer coded, like so fast paced that my half dead ass can't follow it. It's too much for me.
Master. The chat is the hand that feeds. In Speed has flipped the cynic's greatest weapon. Diogenes used dog-like behavior to mock the crowd's dependency on luxury. Speed uses dog-like behavior to satisfy the crowd's hunger for entertainment. He is the ultimate realization of Diogenes' warning, a man who has abandoned his human dignity not to find nature but to become a digital pet. He barks on command for bits and gifted subs. The crowd doesn't watch him because they respect his freedom. They watch him because they own his time. He is the dog of the internet, but unlike Diogenes, he has traded his storage jar for a mansion built on the requirement that he never stops barking. Artificial wildness. Diogenes' ultimate goal was to live caeta facies, according to nature. He mocked the artificial lives of the wealthy with their perfumes, their complex foods, and their constant need for entertainment. He wanted a return to the simple, the raw, and the chaotic beauty of the natural world. He believed that the direction a society takes is decided by what it teaches its children. As he famously said, the foundation of every...
What does our society teach our children, everybody? I do remember when I was growing up, we were taught sharing is caring. I don't know if they still teach that anymore. That might be a little too woke. That might be a little too communist nowadays to teach sharing is caring. But I do remember learning that, which is good. But I think that we teach our kids a lot of like what I would say is capitalist conditioning or whatever, where, yeah, the world sucks. It's a dog eat dog world, and you have to brutalize others to succeed. Like that sort of stuff. We teach our children that a lot, which I don't think is very good or says anything that great about our society. But
state is the education of its youth.
Also, the education of its youth, our public education system is being dismantled as we speak. Soon, education is going to be entirely privatized, just like our healthcare industry. And yeah, if you want an education for your kids, you're going to have to go into horrendous amounts of debt, just like our healthcare industry. And everybody loves our private healthcare industry, right? So why would they not love our private education industry? I'm sure it'll be brilliant, people. It'll be wonderful. It'll be magnificent.
Speed's brand is built on natural chaos. He is unpredictable, he is wild, he is unscripted, but in reality, Speed's chaos is the most artificial thing on the internet. It is a calculated overproduction of behavior. Every scream, every backflip, and every crash is optimized for maximum retention. And this is where Diogenes' quote becomes terrifying. If the education of the youth is now found in the 24/7 hyperstimulated streams of IShowSpeed, what kind of state are we building building, Speed's nature is actually a feedback loop. He does something wild, the viewers increase, and so he does it again, but louder. He is educating an entire generation to believe that freedom is the ability to scream at a screen, rather than the ability to sit in silence and need nothing. Diogenes wanted to live in a jar to show he didn't need the city. Speed lives in the city of the internet, and he needs every single person in it to keep his nature alive. He isn't living cataphysis, he is living kata algorithm. He has perfected the artificial wildness that Diogenes feared, a state where we are so addicted to the spectacle of chaos that we forget what it actually means to be a free, quiet, and honest human being. Diogenes of Sinope once saw the son of a prostitute throwing stones at a crowd and cried out, "Take care you don't hit your father." It was a joke about the commonality of human vice, how we are all part of the same messy, hypocritical world. Today, we are the crowd, and IShowSpeed is throwing stones. We laugh, we clip it, and we donate. But Diogenes' final warning is that the stones eventually hit us all. Speed is not the problem, he is the mirror. He is what happens when a society that claims to value freedom and authenticity actually only values attention and noise. He has perfected the dog-like life, but he's done it for the wrong reasons. He has found the storage jar, but he's filled it with cameras and sponsors. Diogenes spent his life looking for an honest man. If he held his lantern up to IShowSpeed today, he wouldn't find a philosopher. He would find a young man who has been forced to turn his own soul into a 24/7 reality show just to stay relevant in a world that refuses to look at anything that isn't screaming. Speed is what happens when the dog finally gets 1 billion followers. He stops being a critic of the system and becomes its most profitable prisoner.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sure. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Diogenes comparison, I do get it. I think I do get it. He is being absurd and, flouting all the cultural norms, like in that sort of cynicism kind of way. But yeah, he he is much more motivated by clout than I would say Diogenes was. But like I also said, though, Diogenes, you can't completely disconnect the clout that he did get from doing those acts or whatever, from from his philosophy or whatever, because yes, I'm sure maybe in his head he thought I am doing this purely for me, I'm not doing this for anybody else, but the fact that he did get all of that clout anyway as well, to some extent, it's hard, that's almost a distinction without a difference, if you know what I'm saying.